live from Bar Canada at the D here in downtown Las Vegas. On the show today, Bill Krakenberger, the return of the Crack Man.
That's right.
Here at the table at the D.
It's been 2-3 weeks before the Masters.
Is that? Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
He hasn't been with us. That's right. For various reasons, some happier than others. But he'll be with us here to do give us a full hour at the desk, at the table, at the Shield, whatever we're calling it, here at the D, Bar Canada. And we have Peter Fornatale on the Kentucky Derby, my old buddy from the Money Players podcast. We'll talk 150th Run for the Roses. And Al Bernstein, Kelly, original VSiN host, boxing aficionado for so many years at ESPN and Showtime. He's making a big career move in his boxing broadcasting game, and he'll be here to talk about Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Munguia for the super middleweight title of the world.
Let's go.
At T-Mobile, my backyard right here in Vegas. Horse racing and boxing, ladies and gentlemen. If the coveted 18 to 49-year-old demographic is what you're looking for, you've come to the right place.
That's right. Coming up next, we'll talk about the rise of communism across the world.
And then bare-fisted boxing after that. Before we talk NBA. Oh, were you going to say something?
Threw me off something. No,
Sorry.
no, that was good.
Before we talk NBA here, obviously 2 games last night. Blowout fashion again. By the way, the NBA playoffs is very much thus far like March Madness, which is to say there were moments where it was great, but those moments were completely trumped by so many other just ridiculous blowout ho-hum results. But we do have 4 Game 6s, 2 today, 2 tomorrow. We'll get to those momentarily. I just want to
it feels like very I hear you. If you're a casual fan, it feels very much like, oh, one night's great, one night blah.
Yeah,
from
a non-betting perspective, right? Okay, before we get to that, postscript on the Guardians. You know the Guardians beat the Astros in extra innings last night.
Obviously.
Because, of course, they did. In retrospect, that was like the lock of the night. We should have said that. Of course they're going to win.
Hammered the Guardians yesterday,
It went to extras. Of course they won in extras. And guess who got doubled up to end the game? Victor Caratini. It's just, you can't make it up. The best comment, I think, was from Todd Wishnev, who on this show, for those who are familiar with, who are keen observers of this show, the greatest bad beat story of all time, in my opinion, is Todd Wishnev's Yom Kippur massacre story, which was not an actual massacre, so no one panic, but that's what he dubbed this bad beat. And it had to do with, I'll just give the 10-second thumbnail here, it had to do with he had USC in some game. They impossibly lost a game on a Saturday, which happened to be Yom Kippur, the holiest of Jewish holidays. And the quarterback for Arizona State that killed him was a kid by the name of Mike Bercovici. And so he endures this bad beat by this kid, Mike Bercovici, and then 2 weeks later, one of his buddies emails him and is like, hey, are you familiar with the football player Mike Bercovici? And Todd's like, are you messing with me? Like, really? Like, he didn't use the word messing, right? He's like, are you messing with me? He goes, no. I'm here at Starbucks right down the road, and I'm like with this guy's grandfather, Mike Bercovici's grandfather. And Todd's like, what? I'm coming down there. So he ends up having this talk with Mike Bercovici's grandfather, the kid that crushed him in the bad beat. And turns out that he learns in this conversation that Bercovici is Jewish. He's like, wait a minute. You're Mike Bercovici's grandfather, and he's Jewish, and he was playing on Yom Kippur? He's Sandy Koufax, he was not. So anyway, Todd says to me, he goes, the only thing that could make this any better is if you get a text from somebody 2 weeks from now that Victor Caratini's grandfather is hanging out at Starbucks, and you find out that his wife's last name was Goldstein. That's the only thing that can make this even more ridiculous. All right, NBA, last night, Luka gets it done in a big way for the Mavs, and the Mavs beat the Clip Show by 30. The Clippers without Kawhi Leonard. Is it even necessary to say the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard? I feel like the baseline ought to just be like Clippers, and then if he plays, I should mention it.
Yes, I agree with you, although would I be shocked if he tried to do the hobbled hero return for Game 6 and be completely useless on the court? No, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
35, 10, and 7 from Luka last night. 30-point Mavericks win. They take a 3-2 lead in their best-of-7 first-round series against the Clippers. They go back to Dallas for Game 6, where the Mavericks are like an 8-point favorite in this game now. In Game 6. And the Celtics, no surprise, wrapping things up against Miami. They beat the Heat by 34. They wait for the winner of the Cavs and the Magic, the Heat without Jaime Jaquez, as we talked about yesterday on the show. So it just got even more ridiculous in that series. So in essence, what we have now in the NBA playoffs is two teams got swept, the Suns and the Pelicans out west. Two teams went down in gentlemen's sweeps, if you will, 5-game series. That was the Lakers and the Heat now. And then we do have 4 that are going to Game 6s, Kelly, beginning with 2 tonight. And I'm curious your thoughts on this. On all of these, really, the 2 tonight and the 2 tomorrow. By the way, the Nuggets and the T-Wolves will begin on Saturday, the only one of the conference semifinal series that has been determined, that has been locked in already. But tonight, it's the Knicks and the Sixers. It's the Bucks and the Pacers. It begins with the Bucks and the Pacers. Remember, the Pacers are up 3-2, but this is back in Milwaukee. Excuse me, pardon me. This is in Indiana, I should say. And it's their shot, right? If you're up 3-1 in a series, but you don't have games in 5 and 7 at your place, it's kind of a faux 3-1 lead because you really only have the one game where you're going to be a favorite. And this is it for the Pacers. 8-point favorites tonight against a Bucks team. I'm seeing 9 right now in some spots against a Bucks team that at this moment, and I do mean this moment, is a team that is not prepared to have Giannis or Dame, but there's a long time between now and tip-off.
Yeah, there really is. I think you're saying it well. I think there's I'm not expecting anything, but man, I think that every day that goes on here in every game that this series goes on, there's a better and better chance we see. I think we're going to see Giannis before we see Dame. Like I think Dame's could be a little bit further out.
But he got to show up tonight if he is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it could happen. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I think from a betting perspective, the only way I'd be looking still is Milwaukee. I think this series it has shifted a little bit in just the sense that the Pacers they're so mediocre. I was loaded up on them on Sunday when it was kind of just after Dame's going out. Okay, you can bet against the lowly Bucks. Then Bucks have kind of gotten things together. These the last game, Middleton looking great. Portis didn't get ejected. He's looking good. If he can stay on the court, he's a big factor. So I could not imagine laying 8 points with the Pacers. The defense is just not there for them to cover a big number like this. So it would be Bucks or pass. Nothing for me on this one, though. Today.
If someone said, shouldn't my entire handicap of this game be perusing Twitter and Googling anything I can find about Giannis trying to read the tea leaves? And if I come to the conclusion that this guy's a go, I would get ahead of this by taking the points.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'll be doing this afternoon for sure. That will be the only way I will end up on Milwaukee tonight. I'll just remind everybody, though, we did see Giannis try to come back hobbled last year, and like he's a guy that relies so much on his athleticism that any lack of explosion or anything, the guy can't be a jump shooter. He's not a jump shooter. So if you put him in that role,
True.
It makes it a lot tougher. So that would be my only hesitation. Yes, I would. If he was coming back, though, I would think it's because he's healthy enough that he thinks he can do something on the court.
No, that's a great point. It's not as if let's say KD, when KD was in this similar situation, it's not as if you can make the case, well, he'll just sit behind the three-point line and fire in threes. This is not that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think even when Dame got hurt in that game, right? I mean, at the end of that game, it was, hey, leave me out there. I'll just be a decoy. Because he can't, right? Giannis can't really do that. If you see him hobbling over the corner, it's like, let him go. That's fine. Go ahead.
And then, of course, it's Game 6 tonight back in Philly. The Sixers, in unbelievable fashion, erasing a 6-point deficit with less than 30 seconds left in Game 5 to miraculously force overtime, courtesy of the 4-point play, and then a game-tying 3 from Tyrese Maxey. 7 points from him in that short span. And then they end up beating the Knicks in overtime. And now they're on their home court. They're 3-point favorites trying to force a Game 7 back at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, there was no immediate bets for me after the Game 5, Gill. I needed a minute to sit on that. Especially I had the under in Game 5, so that was a pretty bad beat going to overtime. It'd be lean under. I don't think I'm going to end up on a bet on it just because this number has moved a few points now total down to 199.5, 200. Most places. I will be on the Knicks. I haven't made the bet yet. I'm going to make it here during the show. I will be on the Knicks tonight. I'm going back to it. I think I needed a day to think about it a little bit. But, man, the way Joel Embiid was just gassed at the end of that game. Everybody on the 76ers, besides Tyrese Maxey, did not look great. Looked out of sorts. Looked like they were ready for the series to be over. I know it's going to be a tough mental challenge for the Knicks to get back and play some great basketball tonight after taking that terrible beat at home. But I think they're still just the better prepared team right now to close out this series. If they lose tonight, I will not be betting on them in Game 7. I think they lose this, and this goes back to Madison Square Garden.
Oh, really?
I think that means the Sixers have probably found something a little bit, and who knows what happens in a Game 7 back in the Garden.
Think it'll be a Knicks crowd tonight, or is that done for one?
So what did you had the ownership group buy up a bunch of tickets for the 76ers to give out to locals, I believe. So that is it's an interesting move. I don't know how you feel about this, like this whole story. I have no problem with any of it. Like, I have no problem with players complaining about the lack of home fans.
Oh,
I have no problem with home fans selling their tickets for 5 to 10 times more than what they're worth. I don't really care about that. It's fine.
I'm a Washington Commodes fan. That place has been overrun by road team fans for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. And is it desperate that the ownership group had to do this? Sure, but I don't care that they're spending their money doing this either.
But I got to tell you, it kind of matters, because before that it was RFK Stadium, the Theater of Thrills, and it was a totally different story. I mean, it's a shock to Philly because they're supposed to be one of the great sports towns in America is the thing. We'll talk about tomorrow's games, obviously, a lot more tomorrow. But those are the initial NBA thoughts. We'll come back NBA Exactas and, am I reading this right? NFL Power Rankings. Our first of the calendar year post-Super Bowl. Next, Numbers Game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Are you ready to become your own sports betting expert? Hope you are. Look no further than a VSiN Pro subscription, your ticket to insider insights, exclusive data, and winning strategies. For limited time only, we're offering our annual subscription at an unbeatable price. Normally priced at $240, you can now grab your subscription for just $199. Sign up today, and we'll also give you an extra 2 months for free. That's 14 months of VSiN Pro access for less than 50 cents a day when you use promo code ANG. With VSiN Pro, you'll gain instant access to our daily best bets with a leaderboard to see who has the best win percentage and ROI. 19 hours of live programming, including expert breakdowns and in-game analysis, proven betting systems for professional handicappers, and our exclusive betting splits to show you where the money and bets are moving for every game. Visit VSiN.com/subscribe today to claim your 14 months of VSiN Pro for only $199 with promo code ANG.
ANG as in A numbers game. ANG.
That's VC. I can't even. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. VSIN.com/subscribe.
Gill, you know how excited people get when they're at a basketball game or something, they're throwing out free T-shirts to the crowd?
Yeah.
Just imagine one of those T-shirts has 1 month of VSiN free. Boom.
Promo code ANG. We get tweets at Beating the Book. Always appreciate the feedback. John Sepulveda. Can't believe you made it through the first segment without mentioning that Iga is in action. She is. Semifinals, Madrid. But she's up against Maddie Keys. She should take care of business. The big one is Rybakina and Sabalenka later today. Logic 3227. If you're talking all-time bad beats, don't forget me losing a bet on a PSG soccer game because one of PSG's players' families was being robbed at their home at gunpoint during the game. Still the craziest thing I've ever seen in a game. Wow. Jeez.
I mean, I was watching that yesterday. There were some missed opportunities for sure on the PSG side. I don't know if there was something more specific I missed.
Clone Bone, we may have lost the Guardians bet, but you don't have to make this a complete loss for your audience. Consolation prize, Sushi Place name. We talked about I was going to give it out if they won.
That was the grand prize, not the consolation prize, apparently. Yeah.
Jimmy Lopez, the good old Mike Bercovici Yom Kippur Massacre. Love hearing that story. Jack Larkin, assuming not, but does Sinner's withdrawal from Madrid with hip warrant any Roland Garros futures? Well, if the hip is serious enough to take him out of it, absolutely it would. I mean, right now this is kind of falling Djokovic's way because Nadal is, not the Nadal of old, obviously. Sinner's got the hip issue. Alcaraz looked terrible yesterday. So, Joker sitting on the sidelines being like, yep, this looks pretty good right now.
That guy, man. I think that's a great question, though, just overall basic tennis when you're seeing injuries happen. Is that where you put more weight into it when a guy is withdrawing from a tournament?
Yeah, the problem is you don't know if it's real or not in tennis, right? Sinner, obviously, this is a legit injury, but you just don't know if it's going to take him to that point. And that's always the problem. Most injuries in tennis are really nebulous. You're like, is he just pulling out of this tournament because he wants a little more rest for the next one that's bigger or whatever? So there's a lot of that goes on in your head. But this is Sinner's young guy. He's obviously this is obviously a legit injury. The question is, does it take him through, does it take him through Rome? Does it take him all the way into Paris? We'll see. Couple more here, by the way. This is from Russ Harden. Well, Gill, not only am I a lifelong Cleveland fan, I also bet them. I also had Baltimore. So I've been numb since Kimbrel blew 2 games, and Cleveland being Cleveland, all things said, it was a great month of baseball. It was a great month of baseball. By the way, a lot of people making a big deal about the Kimbrel blowing 2 games. That's baseball. Just like the Guardians losing that game last night or 2 nights ago, it's baseball. Those things happen to every team. And again, the people who are complaining about the Orioles, no one was as unlucky as the Guardians and the Braves. Guardians lost their best pitcher to Tommy John surgery, Shane Bieber, as the Braves did with Spencer Strider. And then the Guardians lost a game to rain, and the Braves lost 2 to rain. So there's no other team that has a case to be unluckier than those. Dan Goodwin, what a ride, 50-1, shaking my head. And then Nick Kendhammer, not sure I wanted to listen to yesterday's podcast of the show, knowing the nature of it, but God, I love your storytelling. The detail of when you talk literally makes me feel like I'm there living the ups and downs with you. I truly am sorry as I had no skin in the game. Oh, Nick, that's very kind of you to say. Hope everybody enjoyed the retelling anyway. NBA Finals exact outcome. Kelly, I was mentioning the other day, I bet one of these. You could actually get 4-1 on the – oh, no. You could actually get better. Plus 425 on what I got at plus 375. That's the Nuggets beating the Celtics. That price exists at DraftKings. Only the Celtics beating the Nuggets is shorter at 4-1. And if you ask yourself, wow, really the Celtics are shorter than the Nuggets? The reason for that simply is that their path to get to the finals is easier and therefore shorter than the opposite, the Nuggets beating the Celtics, Nuggets having more difficult path out west. After that, it's all Celtics over opponents. And that makes sense, again, because of the nature of the Eastern Conference field right now. Celtics to beat the Thunder, plus 650. Celtics to beat the T-Wolves, 10-1. Celtics to beat the Mavericks, 12-1. And then after the Nuggets beating the Knicks, it's all Celtics on the other side. T-Wolves to beat the Celtics, 18-1. Thunder beating the Celtics. You get the idea. Mavericks to beat the Celtics. And that makes sense, mathematically. Makes complete sense. Is there a bet here for you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I did bet I have the Mavericks and Mavericks over the Celtics. I bet at the beginning of the playoffs.
I remember that.
Yeah, bet at the beginning of the playoffs. I didn't take the Celtics over the Mavericks because there was such a ridiculous price discrepancy here in town between the two. I still think 12-1. Like, I like it. I think the time would be now for you to make that bet. If it's you saw the Mavericks team I saw last night, Luka Doncic. By the way, I think he's playing the same games that LeBron plays. I love these NBA mind games where it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be back to the Lakers. Luka at shoot-around yesterday be like, oh, I've been dealing with this illness, and the knee's not great. And then he's had by far his best game of the series.
Shooting from the rafters.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be the one I'd be most interested in. I'm wrapped up in this market, though. I've got Thunder and Celtics both ways. That would be awesome if those two met in the finals. And then I have the Mavericks over the Celtics, so I'd have to do some hedging, I guess.
If someone said right now, though, I get it, you've got those prices. But Thunder to beat Celtics 18-1 and then Celtics to beat Thunder plus 650, would you say yes, bet them?
I like the Celtics over the Mavericks 12-1 best. That's on.
That's your best one.
That would be my favorite one. I have absolutely no problem with anybody thinking the way you're thinking, though, and saying Nuggets and Celtics are meeting in the finals. You can't convince me otherwise.
In the year of, again, UConn, South Carolina, Scotty Scheffler and Nelly Korda, I got the Nuggets over the Celtics.
Yeah, and look, the way I view it is the Sixers or Knicks could give the Celtics some issues, but I think it's very likely the Celtics are representing the Eastern Conference, the NBA Finals. I'm excited for the second round of the Western Conference. I think there are 4 really good teams. I should shut up right now. I have so much Maverick series stuff. What am I talking about? There hopefully, Gill, will be 4 really good teams facing off in the second round.
How's JVT doing? They got a wellness check on JVT?
Yeah, it's one of those situations you just don't text each other. Like Zach and I were both on the Mavs yesterday, assuming JVT wasn't. You just don't text each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, NFL Power Rankings. Do we have an intro?
I don't know. It's been a few minutes. Yeah, we'll just move along.
Plug it in. 107.5 The Bone. Okay. Me first, you first.
You first. This is an interesting exercise.
It is interesting because honestly, you're playing off the drift of last year.
Yep.
And then you're trying to convince yourself that something mattered in the draft enough, kind of thing.
And we're still just going same old power rankings like we've always done. This isn't from a odds perspective or betting perspective right now.
All right, 1, Kansas City. Sorry, you doing anything else? I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you know this, but they won the Super Bowl.
I mean, I'm at what week during the season do you think one of us could possibly change that? Like after what we saw last year. I think we've learned
our lesson.
Right. After what we saw last season.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have to take to like week 5 or week 6 when they're like 1-5 or something like that for me to move them.
Xavier Worthy, they traded up to draft him in the first round. The lineage of Tyreek to Kadarius to Xavier Worthy is intact. Chiefs, number 1. Niners are number 2. I know there's talk about Ayuk and Debo, but I still got the Niners at number 2. The Bengals are the wild card here, and I threw them in at number 3 because Joe Burrow is walking through that door. Give me the Bengals at 3. And then it's Ravens at 4 because the Ravens are just always good at football. They do everything right. Eagles are 5. The Lions making their highest appearance for me in the last year. 6. Congratulations, Lions fans. Bills fall to 7. But it's still Josh Allen. And then it's Texans, Dolphins, Packers. Packers make the top 10 for me. But those are my top 10 right now.
I have no idea what to do with the back end. The one thing I'm shocked at on yours is that you have the Eagles ranked higher than me. Because I was sitting there yesterday, and I'm like, I like the Eagles still. Like, I think they're going to bounce back from last year. I love the pieces that they added in the offseason.
You notice I don't have the Cowboys in there, though.
No, you don't. You don't.
No.
And I don't have them in mind either. I feel like we say this every year during the regular season too, but the back half of this was not easy.
No.
It was not easy for me. I thought Chiefs, 49ers, I'm a big Josh Allen guy. Sorry, the Bills will still always be up there for me. I went number 3 for them still. Ravens, Bengals. Flip a coin, you could put them either way, I think. I went Ravens and then Bengals. But, like you said, Joe Burrow back. I'm high on the Bengals. Lions, same here. As high as they're pretty much ever been for me. Number 6, Texans. I'll believe in the CJ Stroud greatness once again. 7 for me. Then I went Eagles. And then I'm like, okay, who else in the NFC? I don't believe in these two teams as much as seemingly some other people do, but Rams, Packers, 9-10 for me.
Rams, wow. Without Aaron Donald, huh? Okay. Take it for what it's worth.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Numbers game live from Bar Canada at the D. Downtown Las Vegas, Gill Alexander, Kelly Bidlin. Producer number 9. So much more than a producer. Bouncer. What else do you do around here? Bouncer, producer.
Clean up ashtrays.
Get
water bottles.
Makes you drink if you want one.
That's right, yeah.
Does it all.
You a screwdriver this morning? I got you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 150th Run for the Roses on Saturday. The fastest 2 minutes in sports, the Kentucky Derby. First of the 3 Triple Crown races. We bring in my old friend to not only talk Derby, but also to talk beyond, specifically about the Preakness. It's Peter Fornital, everybody, host of the Money Players podcast, U.S. analyst for Sky Sports Racing. And he comes to us courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line and has one of the great Twitter handles of all time, @LoomsBoldly. Peter, how you doing, man?
I am great. If you're a horse racing person and you're not super excited at this time as we're on the eve of this 150th Kentucky Derby, if that don't get your fire going, your wood is wet, as I like to say.
Okay, whatever you just said, awesome. Give us the origin, for those who don't know, of your Twitter handle, LoomsBoldly. Let's start there.
It harkens back to one of the great race callers, maybe the greatest race caller of all time in America, a guy named Tom Durkin, and he would have these marvelous little turns of phrase, and one that I can recall him using on at least a few occasions when a horse was sort of making that move on the turn, and you could tell they were full of run, and it was just a matter of time before they exploded to the front. That he would say that the horse looms boldly. So I can remember, for example,
love that.
Coronado Crest looms boldly at the 8th pole, that kind of thing.
Looms boldly. I love that. Okay. Derby's obviously in Louisville, Churchill Downs, then the Preakness at Pimlico in Baltimore, and then this year the Belmont is at Saratoga. You will be there for all of them. Before we get to the Derby, you have some Preakness thoughts and bets to consider.
Yeah, it's a really interesting year because there's a new bet, a Preakness future wager. It's a parimutuel future, so you're not getting these prices locked in, but it's going on right now. So if you have there's two different ways of expressing this opinion, I think. If you love a horse like Fierceness, maybe tipping my hand to who we're going to be talking about in a minute, you have an opportunity not just to bet him on Saturday, but if you, like me, think he might really be the goods, you can get ahead of the game and get a much better price betting him in the Preakness future wager, because there are a lot of doubters out there with this horse, despite his obvious merits. So you have a chance to do that. If you think you want to bet the don't pass line on these Derby horses going forward, you could take a horse like Bob Baffert's Muth in that bet. That would be another wise guy way to play it. Honestly, I'm going to check the markets. If the prices are good enough, I may look to Dutch those two as an interesting way to maybe build up a little bit of equity before the Preakness in 2 weeks' time in Baltimore. But yeah, wherever you bet your horse racing, look for that Preakness future wager. I put on the Lily shirt in honor of it.
Is Fierceness the only horse that could win the Triple Crown, in your opinion?
I believe yes, because it's even for Fierceness, it's going to be especially difficult because you have these Bob Baffert horses waiting in the wings for Baltimore and then New York, Saratoga in 5 weeks' time. So for a horse to win this year, you've got to be better than usual because you have such a high quality of opposition. At the same time, that's why I like this Preakness future bet for Fierceness, because people know this, and therefore I think his price is going to be inflated in that market, and he may just be that brilliant and that good.
Yeah, but you, just to clarify, you are advocating the Preakness bet, but not necessarily the Triple Crown bet. We don't get enough bang for our buck on that, do we?
You know, you had it the year you wanted to have it. I don't remember. Was it Pharaoh? Was it back in 50?
American Pharaoh, yeah.
It hadn't happened in the 36 years, 37 years or whatnot, and people started to think it was impossible, ignoring how easily it could have happened all those years. You know,
that's right.
You guys talk on shows all the time about how after the fact people act like these things couldn't have gone any other way, whether it's NFL plinko, to throw out the term, or, you know, all the random stuff in other sports. But, you know, you got to look at the big picture. There was at a time great value in that bet. This time around, I think the Preakness future bet is probably a safer way to fly, though. You know, it all depends on price. I haven't seen a price on him at any of the books to win the Triple Crown, but my inclination would be keep it simple. Bet him on Saturday. Bet him in the Preakness future wager.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was my complete Triple Crown go-to. Leading up to American Pharaoh, right? In the, what was it, 37 years. In the 37 years between Affirmed in 1978 and American Pharaoh in 2015, everyone was like, no horses won the Triple Crown, right? And all these years we counted it up. And yes, the close calls in retrospect were abundant, but no one ever looked at it that way. And so that was it finally happened, and it happened again. With Justified, if I'm not mistaken, as well, right? So we've had it twice. Okay, Derby. Then how do you approach this Saturday?
It's really interesting. So Fierceness is the horse to really start the discussion with. He's had 5 races. In 3 of them, he's been brilliant. In 2 of them, he's been absolutely terrible. A lot of people are sort of taking the master of the obvious approach. Well, it's been a good race, bad race pattern, so maybe he's due for a bad race. I don't look at it that way. Every wise guy I talk to says the same thing. They say, if he runs his race, he wins. To me, okay, let's look. He's run his race 3 out of 5 times. Let's be conservative and say then there's only a 50% chance he runs his race, and then he wins. So shouldn't he be even money? I think my math is right on this. I was told there would be no math, but I'm bringing it up anyway. But to me, this is a horse that probably has about a 50-50 chance. And yet, in the parimutuel markets, I think he's going to be no shorter than 2-1 and maybe 5-2 or 3-1. I just think it's a classic case where you take this value, you put it in your pocket, and you move on with life.
Who are the throwouts? Which horses are the throwouts in your opinion?
There are. It's easier to go through the ones I think can realistically win because it's a short list.
Okay.
So, great case for Sierra Leone. I think, if this is in the 50% chance Fierceness doesn't show up. Catching Freedom, another one I think could win the race if everything goes his way. Honor Marie, another horse I would put on that list. I would say another horse very unexposed, up and coming, only 3 races, could win logically just a touch is a runner I would put in that category. And then the last one is a total wild card coming to us from Japan, Forever Young. Japan have shown they can win these big races all over the world. They haven't done it yet in the Derby. But this trainer, Yahagi-san, we call him, adding the honorific. He's won Breeders' Cup races. Only a matter of time before he wins a Derby. I don't like this horse for it for very technical reasons I won't belabor you with, but it's a scenario that wouldn't surprise me in the least. Let's put it that way.
I'm looking at the weather, Peter, in Louisville, and it's like there's rain Friday and then rain Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But Saturday, no rain. How would that affect? Like if you found out, if that shifted and you found out it was just going to be a downpour, how would that affect your handicap here?
Fierceness is a speed horse. Speed horses are generally advantaged in wet tracks. It would increase the chance that he needs to break well, but I think that's a prerequisite of him winning anyway. So it wouldn't really change my handicap of the Derby. It would probably make it a little bit harder on the closers because then they got to run through that mud, dirt getting kicked up in their face, etc. So it would probably actually strengthen Fierceness's position in the race, in my view, in a slight way, but I'm still crossing fingers that it doesn't rain just because it's a lot more fun over there under the Twin Spires when you get a beautiful day.
Which is your favorite, by the way, of the 3 Triple Crown races to attend, just from a enjoyment standpoint? Which is it for you?
Got to be the Belmont Stakes. I've been to every one since 1996, excepting the COVID year. Always bring a great crew of friends. You know, I work in the industry now. I have the In the Money Players podcast. We have the In the Money Media YouTube channel. You get tons more content if you're interested in Derby and racing there. But Belmont Day is a day where I try to get back to my roots. I want to be a fan. I want to sit with more casual observers out there by the turn and, sneak in some cocktails and sit there and eat sandwiches and shoot the breeze with my pals. It is a back to my roots day, and I absolutely love it. It'll be so different and interesting with it being up in Saratoga this year, but I am extremely excited to see how it all shakes out.
Were you ever an infield at Pimlico guy for the Preakness?
I did it twice.
Yeah.
I did it twice. And the second time there was a blackout and I ended up leaving early and we were in the nearest bar we could find watching it on TV. And I said, never again. It's gotten a lot more civilized out there though. It's not the running of the porta potties that we used to see. It's definitely a bit more of a civilized situation. But yeah, so these days though, we actually do the proper hospitality there and it's a great event. They're all terrific. These are the days when racing really matters. Even a casual sports fan, these are the days to tip your toe into the water and get involved. I love sports gambling. Been listening to you forever. I've stolen a lot of your act for the work I do at In the Money Media. But I have to say, in terms of a gambling game, when it's at its best, and Felica will tell you this too, it's the best gambling game there is. And I think a lot of people in your audience would do well to check it out.
There it is. There's a PSA for horse racing itself, betting-wise. Thank you, Peter. Great to talk to you, man.
You are the man. Keep up the great work, guys. Love listening to you. You make the workout so much easier.
Thank you so much, Peter. That's very kind of you. At Looms Boldly, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. That's where you can find Peter on the Twitter machine. Al Bernstein on the other side. Canelo's got a fight, and it might not be that easy. Next.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is Kentucky Derby time. Are you ready for the greatest 2 minutes in sports? Saddle up with DK Horse, an official DraftKings affiliate. Right now, new customers who download the DK Horse app can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $250 when they opt in with code VSiNHorse. VSiNHorse, all one word. Just deposit $25 or more and complete the playthrough requirement. Download DK Horse now to join the Run for the Roses action. Only on the DK Horse app. It's Gill Alexander. It's Kelly Bidlin. Live from Bar Canada at the D. We got the super middleweight, the unified super middleweight title championship of the world this weekend, Saturday, T-Mobile Arena right here in Las Vegas. Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Munguia, the undefeated Jaime Munguia, 43-0, 34 by knockout. Canelo's still a prohibitive favorite, north of $5. And to help us navigate through that, and with some other stuff to announce about his boxing announcing life. It's VSiN's original host, one of our original hosts, Al Bernstein, everybody, the legendary Al Bernstein, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. Good morning, Al. How are you?
I'm good, Gill. How are you? Nice to visit with you.
Nice to visit with you. Always great to talk to you. First, let's get the announcement out of the way. We've known you, obviously, not only as a VSiN original host, but perhaps more famously, so many years at Showtime, 2 decades at Showtime announcing boxing, ESPN before that. What's the big news, man?
Well, my next part of my broadcast journey is going to be switching over to a series that's on the Zone, which of course is the one of the major boxing platforms, the giant digital sports platform that has not just boxing, of course, but all sports globally. And I'm going to be starting on May 23rd with a big time USA boxing series, it's called, and I will be now moving on to that series. So I'm excited. It's going to start on May 23rd, and I'm very happy to be back back ringside and back calling fights, which is, well, I like to do lots of things, as you know. That's the main thing.
That's the main thing. By the way, let's not bury the headline. One of the other things that you like to do is you have a singing career here in Las Vegas, and I mean this, Al. I want to come and see this. When is the next performance?
We're shooting for June, and I will keep you posted of it. It's not, I don't have the date set, but it's going to be in the middle of June, and I'll keep everybody posted on it. I usually do my performing over at the Tuscany Suites Casino. They have a wonderful, great music room over there, just off the Strip. It's a really nice place, and so that's kind of my home away from home musically. So we'll be doing something. I will make sure you're there. We're going to get you there.
Kelly, we're going.
Oh, we're going. We're there.
We're in.
We're there, Al. Looking forward to it.
I love it. Can't wait. And I'm being
Well,
serious.
some fun.
Can't wait. Okay. Before we get to the Canelo fight, can I just ask you off the cuff here? Because there's been a couple of things, obviously, that have been in the news in boxing. One of which is, and I just want to ask you which one, as a longtime boxing observer, what bothers you more? We have the news of Ryan Garcia testing positive for the performance-enhancing substance Ostarine. He had the upset win over Devin Haney. There's that. And then, of course, you know where I'm going with this. Then there's Mike Tyson, right, at 58 years old. And this is a sanctioned fight now, I guess. Although it's, what is it? It's 2-minute rounds, 8 2-minute rounds.
Yeah.
Against Paul. What bothers you more as a boxing purist?
See, that's what. See, only a really, 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 really good host would phrase that question exactly that way. That's. I can count on you to do things like that. That's really interesting because it is true. Both of those things, in some ways, I mean, in different ways, are nettlesome to boxing fans. Of course, the Ryan Garcia situation, and let's be honest, is one thing that can annoy boxing fans. Certainly, that whole situation was fraught with eccentricities and mistakes and poor behavior. He comes in 3 pounds overweight. There's all the craziness leading up to the fight. And then, of course, why wouldn't it culminate with him testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs? It is a little bit annoying because more than a little bit. Because here's this fight that boxing fans are a little embarrassed about to begin with. Then, because of his great performance, it kind of took some of that away, and then now here we are back again. So that one's certainly a problem. The other situation with Tyson and Jake Paul, we live in times now where an event, the marketability of an event, and what you can do with it in terms of marketing and PR kind of overtakes the value of an event. That's true of everything. So which one is more annoying? I'm going to say one is the more globally annoying thing, and what is a more specifically annoying thing? How's that? Is that a fair statement?
That works. Mike Tyson will be 58.
I'm trying to put on my UN diplomat hat here.
That's right. Mike Tyson will be 58 by the time the fight goes down in July. Jake Paul, 27 years old. I'm only reminded, though, and we'll get to Canelo here, right? But the last thing I want to say about this is Ernie Shavers came on the show when we were at the South Point about 4 or 5 years ago. And Ernie Shavers, for those who don't know, one of the great boxers of the one of the great heavyweight boxers of the 1970s, and largely considered to have the hardest punch of all of the greats. And he was 73 years old at the time, right? 73 when he came on the show. And I said to Ernie, I go, Ernie, if we stood up right now and you punched me as hard as you could in my stomach, would I fall to the ground? And he smiles. He goes, oh, yeah, for sure. 73 years old. So shouldn't Mike Tyson be able to take down this kid? By the way, I'm no Jake Paul. I'm not making the comparison. But what I'm saying is these old fighters don't die that quickly.
Well, the old line that power is the last thing to go. And that is probably true. However, Jake Paul is kind of like a fledgling professional cruiserweight. Like he would be fighting cruiserweights and kind of has that are like 5-1 or 6-2 or 7-4 or whatever. And the thing about Mike Tyson is, A, he's 57, and B, he didn't fight well in his final fights. He lost again. Now we saw him in the George Jones exhibition, a few years ago, and he showed some skill level and clearly he gets muscle memory. If he hits Jake Paul correctly, he could knock him out. But the other thing is they're fighting with 14-ounce gloves, which is partially done, I think, to mitigate somebody getting hurt in that fight.
Yeah. All right, Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Munguia. How do you see this? Canelo is a minus 525 favorite, but a lot of folks are saying Munguia has a shot here, plus 380 on the comeback.
Here's the thing: this fight boils down to, and when you look at the wagering, this is kind of, to me, the thing that hovers over all of what somebody might decide when they're thinking about wagering on this. At the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez simply doesn't get knocked out. He has an iron chin that is almost impossible to ultimately penetrate. Jaime Munguia is a volume puncher. So Jaime Munguia can win rounds against Canelo Alvarez, assuming he would get them. But, Canelo is often, of course, gets the benefit of the doubt from judges, and that's something to remember. The question is, can Jaime Munguia stand up to the power of Alvarez, who has been at 168 longer and who is probably the hardest puncher that Munguia has faced? That is really what this whole fight boils down to. And so when you're looking at the overall odds and when you're looking at whether you want to bet on it'll be a decision or it'll be a knockout, I think that's the key thing you have to decide. Munguia is what, to win by decision, plus 700, to win by KO, plus 950. Of course, those are attractive numbers, and for somebody to put down a couple of dollars thinking it might happen is interesting, I suppose, but it's just not a likely, to most people's minds, it's a tricky scenario. So that's the one thing you have to decide as a fan and as a bettor when you're going to look at this fight.
So you would say put a little money on one of those two if you can bring yourself to a Munguia win here. Figure out if it's by decision.
You're convinced that there might be that's exactly right.
Okay.
If you're convinced there might be an upset, take a shot at a little bit of that, at both of those, and go home and stay a novena.
I'm glad you said that part about, though, when it gets the decision with Canelo, it always gets a little dicey.
Well, that's the other thing, right? And
Alec, I got to run. Unfortunately, but thank you so much for spending the time, and congratulations on DAZN.
You take care. Hey, good to talk to you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Al Bernstein, ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame boxing analyst. Not every day we get to talk to a Hall of Famer. Hall of Fame boxing analyst. We'll come back. The Crack Man, Unscripted, next.